Hi everyone, it's Bella, and today I'd like to speak to you about the partial solar eclipse that we will have on the 25th of October 2022 at 2 degrees of Scorpio. Now this eclipse will occur at 8:58 Zulu military time, GMT or Universal Time. A new moon solar eclipse occurs when the sun, the moon, and the earth are aligned during a new moon, when the moon moves between the sun and the earth, obscuring the sunlight to the earth. Therefore, the sun is eclipsed. Now, the path of the eclipse shadow will be the regions that will be able to at least see partially the eclipse will be Europe, Southwest Asia, Northeast Africa, as well as the Atlantic, as well as the Russian territories. The moon is here very close to the ecliptic plane. An eclipse can only occur near the nodes of the moon. And at this time, it is when the south node is in Scorpio. And even though most new moons, as this is about new beginnings or seeds of intention, this time it also is about a closure of some kind, a letting go. And it is therefore good to sit and think what it is that mindfully needs to be ending in that part of our lives that Scorpio rules. The South Node also brings in a spiritual factor where we may be realizing our priorities are shifting, our values are changing, and maybe we do not desire or need or enjoy the same things or see them in the same light any longer. Our interests may be more inclined to spiritual fulfillment than that of the material. And our circumstances may bring us to this point of realization. With it also being an eclipse and also a Scorpio eclipse, we will be seeing a lot of people coming in and out at this time, as eclipses are portals. And we are in that eclipse time now, where we have the next one on the 8th of November. We have many cycles closing now. We are in the last square of Saturn and Uranus. We also have Venus now on just prior to this eclipse on the 22nd of October, starting a new Venus star point in Libra, which is the first after 250 years. So Venus will dip at the 29th degree of Libra, which is a very critical degree already. And therefore everything to do with Venus, such as financials, values, comforts, nature, all of that will be taking on a Libran octave, so to speak, and we will not fully be into the Libra star point until 2030. But we will see a lot more equalization as far as the material world is concerned, a lot more attention being paid as far as nature and our relationship with nature, our relationship with food, relationships of equality on all levels, as well as our personal relationships, period, will be under a lot more intensity and focus for us, as Venus will now also be with a star point in a sign that Venus actually rules. So this is quite powerful as well for this to be taking place. Now, this is a new beginning or new leaf being turned in your Scorpio house. There is also something here that has to be let go of first, as I mentioned earlier. Eclipses can bring in life-changing changes, especially if you are not on your path. These can be swift and unexpected or unfold within 6 months or so. A redirection, or how I prefer to see it, as God moving things into alignment. For some of us, this can be painful at first, for others, more exciting. It all depends on your perspective. Scorpio is a fixed water sign that can hold onto the past, hold onto resentments and unforgiveness. It can struggle with letting emotional baggage go, but it can live on very little. Scorpio is all about change and transmutation, tearing down to get to the root and underlying details, and then rebuilding back up, purging the heart as it goes. It can still kick against these changes though, but Scorpio is about shedding the old skin. It is in the surrender that we naturally attract what is for us, rather than hunting it down and in fact pushing it away even further. It's in accepting the loss, the pain, whatever it is, and working with it that we become a purer version of ourselves and for the Creator. So be aware that we will be experiencing a lot more souls leaving and souls coming in during this portal opening. This time of year, we are much more in touch with our psychology and our feelings. People or events can trigger unusual behavior and reactions out of us. We can feel triggered or rawly exposed in some area, powerfully affected by others or events. Fortunately, this shifts us into looking deeper at our inner selves, as this is a time of year where we are asked to let some things go, to trim the branches and to stop watering dead plants. Opportunities for purging, detoxing, healing by facing undealt with trauma and new growth. For many people, financial topics, especially those of shared resources, become highlighted, as well as toxicity of all kinds, also in regards to relationships. We want trust, we want truth, we want intimacy, passion, depth, and longevity, or we want nothing at all. An unhealthy or any unhealthy obsessions, jealousy, resentments, unforgiveness, attachments, possessiveness, revenge, betrayal, trust, power, and control issues. All of these types of things can rear its head during this time. So relationships, again, I feel is a very powerful topic at this time because we have strong activations of the number 2. We also have this new Libra star point in that is very, very much about relationships. So it really is putting a focus on who are we sharing with, how are we sharing, and how and who do we want in our lives moving forward, and how do we want our interactions to be, how do we value our relationships, all of these things. We're also having the nodes right now in Taurus and Scorpio, which are ruled by Venus and Mars. And then next year, the nodes will be moving into Aries and Libra, which are again relationship signs, Mars and Venus. So we are in a period where our relationships are becoming extremely important at this time. So it's very important that we are purging our relationships and purifying them so that they are supportive both ways. Now, the ruler of this eclipse is also Mars in Gemini, currently stationing slowly to move retrograde invisible within 7 degrees of the sun, and sitting interestingly at 25 degrees, 25 minutes on the 25th of October. Now, the eclipse is also taking place in the nakshatra of Swati. The word Swati actually means sword and is also connecting to new growth as well as being flexible in a new phase where we are still in a period where we can still change things, we can still move things around, and aim for freedom if we gather our connections now. Our connections and our partners are becoming very important at this time. The key themes of this nakshatra is also independence, strength, as well as relationships and partnerships that are coming up at this time. The sun and moon is conjunct Mercury and assists us in clearer and deeper thinking, giving us also many opportunities for communication and moving around. We're able in most cases to really express our state of mind and also stand up for ourselves when needed. Remember to stay objective and also see the other points of view. That's another Libra reminder. It is important to avoid gossip and slander. With the sun and moon conjunct Venus, we could very well be trying to get the attention of our closest love or partnered relationships. Love is on the mind, partners and sharing. Sexuality is strong, beautifying your home and socializing. New relationships can start under the energies here. But any relationship that's run its course may also end at this time. Betrayals and secrets can be exposed and also cause heartache. And of course, then there is the relationships, habits, or issues that just need trimming or deepening and some redirection. Relationships now has to have depth as well as intimacy. They have to be supportive. We have to be on the same page as the people closest to us if we are to make it through the periods that are following. True intimacy cannot exist without being willing to be vulnerable, to be willing to take the risk of rejection, to be willing to lose what you desire in order to at least feel alive, to feel life. Remember, gain and loss is part of life. Love and loss of love is also part of life. But we are here to experience life. And it's a reminder to let go of possibly the story that you had planned in your head of how your life or your relationships should look like. And to stop punishing yourself for trying to make things work that maybe aren't working. And to also be able to recognize when you've done enough, when you've given enough, when you've done everything you can, and it's now just time to sit back and give the rest to God and say, I've done what I can do. I've finished the race, or I've completed my task. I've given everything to this relationship that I have, or this job, or whatever it may be. And I can only give so much. And now I have to sit back and leave the rest to God to take care of, and trust that your best interests are at heart, and that what is for you shall not pass you by, and that whatever you are experiencing, good or bad, there's always a silver lining, and it's always part of a bigger picture that we may not see or understand until later on. But we have to trust the process, because the process of purification is very seldom smooth and very seldom easy. But Scorpio wants to feel it completely. Or the opposite, block it completely and live life without ever experiencing it at all. It is in relation with others where we learn to also see what is lacking inside of us, as our relationships act as a mirror, what we need to work on in order to become whole. Because only then will we be able to love unconditionally, without attachment and fear. When you learn you are enough. It is also important to be cautious in spending at this time, as well as investing at this time. The sun and moon are also trining Mars, and we have the courage and energy to go for it. The clarity also. This is great for decisive action, making good impressions, speaking our truth in direct ways, but without being aggressive. This is great if you have to lead a group of people or communicate between parties. It's also great for feelings to be expressed in the physical. The sun, the moon, and Mercury square Pluto, which can make you the perpetrator or the victim, but this energy can bring in manipulation, even unknowingly, and guilt, amongst other methods of persuasion, or forcing someone into doing something or changing something that they do not want to. This in turn can provoke responses that we consider unpleasant. It can also bring up a lot of narcissistic actions. And we can also feel ugly under this, deeply emotional, gutted, having to face dark truths about ourselves or about others, or even losses, grief. Someone can exert great power over us, or vice versa. And this energy can also be the reason we can feel severely under pressure at this time. We can be forced to make radical changes, and we could have to contend with people or persons in authority, or having to own up to something we've done in the past, or simply just by abuse of power. A powerful mental change and level of understanding can be taking place now, with Venus speaking closely with the sun. The energy also brings in the possibility of mechanical issues, therefore be more cautious when using machinery of all kinds with this. Also, stay away from poisonous material, and it might be a good idea to check water purity as well. Collectively, there also may be much more media coverage on sewage issues, on sexual transmitted diseases, extreme earth events, earthquakes, weather, nuclear news, financial changes in the markets. We have to remember that the moon is in debility in Scorpio, as well as Venus. So we will see changes in the markets financially as well. News on sexual transmitted diseases, news on more truth and information coming out in regards to medicines, in regards to the healthcare field, in regards to vaccines. A lot more truth coming out about sexual crimes as well, and so forth. Now, with Mercury trining Mars and Saturn, we're mentally more agile and fortified, and we may see obstacles rather as challenges. We will not get down and we will fall, but we will get back up again, and we will keep on keeping on. There's great persistence here. There's great strength. We can feel determined to find practical solutions to whatever we are up against at this time. You can speak with more confidence now. Therefore, if you have to do any public speaking, like I mentioned, it should go well. If you've been holding back on something that's seemed too big, or if you've stayed quiet when you actually wanted to say something, now is the time to fix that and to say that, to do it, to take the leap. You may find you prefer conversations now that are more meaningful, or you may just have a lot more serious issues to deal with at this time. But depth will need to be there for you to be interested. Venus also squares Pluto, and this again intensifies sexual energy, seduction and attraction, but also jealousy and higher possibilities for domestic violence and rape. This aspect can show where in a relationship you cannot go on the way you have before. And for some, this can indicate breakups. In some cases, this can manifest where you know a relationship needs to end, but you keep hanging on, because Venus in Scorpio tends to do that instead of letting go. It is important to allow people to come and go now, as God's hand is at play. And regardless, your relationships will have to have depth and total exposure now to continue. This also brings again to the attention the organs that are sensitive during this time. They would be the sexual organs that are ruled by Scorpio. And then of course also I would say everything ruled by Venus as well. So we also want to look at the thyroid, the kidneys. You want to really watch your sugar intake at this time, your alcohol intake, the drugs that you're taking, the medication that you're taking. Genitals, the anus, the genital glands, the ovaries, the prostate, all of those organs are a bit more sensitive at this time. And of course, surgical operations are not recommended, but this is not medical advice. Please consult your own medical physician. There can also be a strong desire to accumulate material wealth, and we can expect huge changes and power moves in the financial arena worldwide over the next months, as well as changes in the area of loans, mortgages, investing. And with Mars in Gemini until March of next year, we will see it in our everyday lives, online, in stores, etc. Mars is also, and of course, before I continue that, we will be seeing new currencies, like I've mentioned before in some of my other videos. And now with this new Libra star point, I definitely think we will see a lot more of that. And especially by 2030, a lot more financial equalization. Mars is also squaring Jupiter, and we can easily want to act too impulsively. We can have extreme emotional reactions, be overly confident, or go beyond our energy or resource limit. Therefore, keep that ego in check and think before you act. Maybe you were betrayed and you want revenge. Take a walk and get some fresh air, but do not compromise your integrity or act in devious ways at this time to get your way, as it will only hurt you instead. This aspect can also indicate international interest and action. Mars also squares Neptune, and our energy can fluctuate quite a bit. We can feel confused in some way or defeated somehow by consequences or by previous actions. This is not a time to give up, and there's enough support from other aspects to keep us fortified. So keep your chin up. You're here for a reason, and whatever is for you shall not pass you by. Keep trusting and keep on keeping on. Remember, you're also a beacon of light to others. You staying up keeps others up as well. The nodes square Saturn, and This can manifest in ways that again could have us feeling defeated or very heavy, loaded with worry or with fear, with distance, with loneliness, with loss or grief. This can also take out a lot of, this can be an activator for people that are sort of on their way out as well. So be aware of that. But on the other and higher perspective of the eagle, there's an awareness of an inner strength from above that pushes us through now. We're able to conquer our fears and break through our limitations because the less we need, the less we consume and fill and buy and gather, the more we become aware of our inner being, our inner burning, our inner purpose, and the less we need in the material to feel fulfilled and content. We must remember to gather our riches in heaven. With Saturn squaring the nodes and Uranus as a closing square and Uranus conjunct the North Node, we're reminded to let go of old baggage in order to move forward lighter. Our awareness of tension is quite strong. We want to level up and break free in some area, but we're thwarted with other responsibilities towards others, other things that are popping up that's making us wait longer, or maybe we feel like we're blocked in some way, like we're just not possible to make that change yet. We're reminded that our minds can also create prisons for ourselves, and the most of our personal obstacles we created for ourselves. Therefore, we must give it more time. Saturn is saying there is still more time before it is time. We are to pay attention to what we feed ourselves on every level, not just food, but people, environments, music, the media. We're reminded that every action has a consequence. We are energetically attracting situations now, people, and life lessons that assist us in making the changes that are keeping us from growing and moving closer or higher onto our soul's journey and purpose. It's also bringing in the people and situations and opportunities that you need in order to see more clearly. I would like to read to you the 22nd degree of Libra, the inside degrees by Elias Longdale, as Mercury, the dispositor of Mars in Gemini, is at 22 degrees of Libra, with its dispositor, Instability in Scorpio, conjunct the eclipse. An ancient glass vial, perfectly preserved, soul memory, intensely held to ancient faculties, a stunning quality of still feeling the way people felt a very long time ago. A super sensitivity hidden and protected, disguised and played off of, underneath being vastly in tune with realms of existence, places and times that to others are remote, but that to you are closer than close. Your unsurpassed ability to bring other realities into this world faithfully, accurately, and dispassionately has a dazzling array of accompanying treasures, which include feeling virtually immune to contemporary egoisms and having no problem at all imagining and bringing to life absolutely anything. A repository of timeless knowledge to draw from, yet it is self-replenishing, the bottomless well of source knowingness, unaffected by time, by circumstance, or by any changes you go through. Riches that bear integrity and conviction, and quickly disappear out of view when called to compromise or compete. It is all inside, and it is complete, and it is so very true. Mars, the ruler of this eclipse, is at a basic standstill to go retrograde on the 30th of October. And I would highly recommend you take a listen to my recording on Mars retrograde in Gemini, as Mars will be in Gemini until the end of March of 2023 and will be playing a big role in what is to come in the next months. Thank you so much for listening. Please share, subscribe, and like. May the sun shine bright on you this day. May there be blessings coming your way. Until next time, stay kind. Bye-bye.